Hey, I'm Charlie Pryde.
And I'm Jennifer Pryde. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Pride of the Villages.
Ireland, the Emerald Isle, widely known for its stunning landscapes, rich history, vibrant culture, and warm hospitality. Highlighted by iconic landmarks like the Cliffs of Moher and the Giant's Causeway, traditional music and dance, literature, and of course, Guinness and whiskey. In this video, we will explore both the south and north of Ireland as we were on a 15-day tour of the island with Collette Travel. We decided to get to Ireland a day prior to joining our tour group and flew with Aer Lingus on a direct flight from Orlando, Florida to the capital city of Dublin. It was only an 8-hour flight. Arriving in Dublin, processing through immigration and customs was a smooth process. Now, there are several ways to get from the airport into the city center, to include taxis, but we chose the Dublin Express bus. Tickets were €8 each, buses ran every 30 minutes, and the stop we would get off at was only a 100-yard walk to our hotel, the Hyatt Centric, located in the Liberties District. Thankfully, our room was ready upon arrival. We dropped our bags and were on our way exploring Dublin. Dublin does have a public transportation system, to include the Lewis tram system and buses. There are also tour buses and tour vehicles that go into the water. Dublin is a very walkable city, and our first trek was to St. Stephen's Green. This beloved urban park is a place of beauty and tranquility in the heart of the city. It is one of Dublin's largest Georgian garden squares, showcasing beautiful architecture and attracted Dublin's wealthiest families in the past. It also has historical significance as a site of public executions, witch burnings, and then its role in the 1916 Easter Rising, with the Irish Citizen Army occupying part of the park, erecting barricades and trenches. Today it is home to monuments, statues, ponds, and walking paths that families enjoy. Being midday, it was time for lunch, and we chose the Bean Hive Cafe, located just off the square. We ate what they do best, wraps and smoothies. After lunch, we visited the nearby National Museum of Archeology. Free to enter, this branch of the National Museum of Ireland specializes in Irish and other antiquities dating from the Stone Age to the late Middle Ages. It is not a huge museum, but their displays dating back to 7000 BC are impressive. Highlights include gold treasures and the world-famous Iron Age bog bodies, mummified human remains excavated from the peat bogs of Ireland. There are plenty of Viking artifacts, including swords and coins, and classic objects from ancient Egypt, Cyprus, and the Roman world. Then it was time to do some window shopping. St. Stephen's Green Shopping Center is located across from the park and at the top of Grafton Street. The building's use of glass and ornate white iron work on the exterior has been likened to a Mississippi steamboat moored on the edge of the green, and the building is sometimes known locally as the Wedding Cake. We thought the interior was quite impressive. Leaving the shopping center, we walked down Grafton Street, the famous pedestrian shopping lane known for its musicians or buskers. There was a statue of Philip Lynott, the co-founder, lead vocalist, bassist, and primary songwriter for the hard rock band Thin Lizzy. Grafton Street had plenty of shops and beautiful flower stands. There was no lack of designer stores as well.
Okay. I said it's very cool. And at the end of the street, there's this beautiful church.
Where Grafton Street ends, the front gate to Trinity College begins. Founded in 1592, Trinity College is famous for being Ireland's oldest and top-ranked university. Its rich history, impressive library, housing the Book of Kells, and for producing numerous renowned alumni in various fields, including politics, science, and literature, to include writers Oscar Wilde, Samuel Beckett, and Bram Stoker. With over 2 million visitors each year, Trinity College is a major tourist attraction in Dublin, drawing people to its historic campus and its cultural treasures. We did not see the Book of Kells, but if you plan to do so, ensure you reserve your ticket ahead of time. After walking the college grounds, we walked over to the Molly Malone statue. Molly Malone is a fictional character immortalized in the Dublin anthem Cockles and Mussels, a song about a young woman who sold seafood on the streets of Dublin and died of a fever. Unfortunately for the statue, tourists believe if they rub her bosom, it will bring them good luck. Unlikely that is the case, and best to leave Molly unmolested. Next was dinner at Temple Bar. There is a pub named Temple Bar, but it is also the name of the surrounding busy riverside neighborhood, spread over several cobbled pedestrian lanes. The neighborhood is a combination of unique stores, pubs hosting live and folk music, and a wide variety of restaurants. We chose to eat at Gallagher's Boxty House. Jennifer had the Irish stew, which consisted of lamb, and I the shepherd's pie. Two traditional dishes that were outstanding. Next morning's meal for me was a full Irish breakfast consisting of fried egg, sausage, bacon, mushrooms, grilled tomato, and black and white pudding. Black pudding is a traditional blood sausage, a savory dish made with animal blood, often pork or beef, along with cereal fillers like oatmeal or barley and spices. White pudding is similar to black pudding, but without the blood. Not a fan of black pudding? Jennifer opted for the porridge with some sweet toppings. After breakfast, we had a 15-minute walk to the Guinness Storehouse for our tour. We booked the Guinness Storehouse experience online, and generally the time slots in the morning are cheaper than those in the afternoon. They also have discounted rates for seniors. While the exterior of the building may look old, the inside exhibits are high-tech. Let's begin our self-guided tour. At the end of the tour, we headed up to the Gravity Bar for an included drink. The views over the capital city are fantastic. The drink can be non-alcoholic, and of course there is a pint of Guinness available. Arriving back at the ground floor, the Storehouse gift shop has everything that you could think of with the Guinness brand. It was then on to tour Kilmainham Jail. This is a very popular tourist site, with tours being booked out a month in advance. When it was first built in 1796, public hangings took place at the front of the jail. The jail primarily held perpetrators of petty crimes such as theft. There was no segregation of prisoners. Men, women, and children were incarcerated up to 5 in each cell, with only a single candle for light and heat. Children as young as 7 were incarcerated, while many of the adult prisoners were deported to Australia. The most famous of its prisoners were the leaders of the 1916 Easter Rising. This is the landing where the 1916 leaders were held before their execution. Of note is Joseph Plunkett. As a leader of the Easter Rising, at age 28, he was the youngest of the 7 signatories to the proclamation of the Irish Republic. Plunkett married Grace Gifford while in prison, only 7 hours before his execution by firing squad. An exhibit in the jail museum tells their story. Kilmainham Jail was decommissioned as a prison by the Irish Free State government in 1924 and was restored with the work of volunteers in the 1960s. This jail is a must-visit while in Dublin. That evening, we met our Collette tour group for a dinner in the Temple Bar neighborhood on the bank of the Liffey River. The Clarence Hotel's Cleaver East Restaurant was the venue. This establishment was previously owned by U2's Bono and other band members for 27 years. Menu choices were Emerald Isle sourced, and the Irish beef was outstanding. The next morning, our Collette tour manager Michael, the gentleman on the right, introduced us to Kenny, the gentleman on the left. Kenny is a tour guide for Secret Street Tours, which is a non-profit offering tours through the eyes and experiences of someone who has been affected by homelessness. Now, this is not a Debbie Downer tour. With a great sense of humor, Kenny guided us through the Liberties area, exploring the cultural and historic landmarks of the area from Palace Street, Dublin Castle, Grafton Street, and St. Stephen's Green, while addressing Dublin's societal challenges of affordable housing and recent immigration. After thanking Kenny for a great tour, our group spent the rest of the morning at the EPIC, the Irish Immigration Museum. This was a self-guided tour where we discovered why 10 million Irish men and women left Ireland and who had an impact on the world. The exhibition is made up of 20 galleries, which are each individually themed. The migration galleries, for example, deal with migration patterns from Ireland since 500 AD. These galleries cover missionary work, the Irish famine, religious and social persecution, criminal transportation, and the effects of Irish involvement in foreign conflicts. In all, was a great history overview presented through the latest technology. Across from the museum were other reminders of the Irish migration, including the World Poverty Stone, the Famine Memorial, and the Jeannie Johnson, a replica 19th century immigration ship. In the afternoon, during free time, we visited the Christ Church Cathedral. The cathedral was founded in the early 11th century, was rebuilt in stone in the late 12th century, enlarged in the 13th century, and rebuilt in the 19th century, giving it the form it has today, including the tower, flying buttresses, and distinctive covered footbridge. Inside the cathedral, it looks like many of the other cathedrals we have visited in our travels, but there are some interesting historic pieces. The cathedral's copy of the Magna Carta, the tomb of Anglo-Norman leader Richard de Clare, better known as Strongbow, the encased heart of St. Lawrence, the patron saint of Dublin. And then there is the crypt, the largest one in Ireland, and the oldest working structure in Dublin. Here you will find the mummified remains of a cat and rat that was found in one of the organ pipes. Then this mummified human in stocks. Oh, no, that's just Jennifer. Leaving the cathedral, we walked over to the Dublin Castle grounds. Here sits the Chester Beatty Library. It is a library and a museum. It was established in 1953 to house the collections of mining magnate Sir Alfred Chester Beatty. The Chester Beatty is one of the premier sources for scholarship in both the Old and New Testaments and is home to one of the most significant collections of Western, Islamic, and East and Southeast Asian artifacts. The museum's collections are displayed in two galleries, Sacred Traditions and Arts of the Book. Both displays exhibit manuscripts, miniature paintings, prints, drawings, rare books, and some decorative arts from the Persian, Islamic, East Asian, and Western collections. The best part of visiting is the admission is free. On our way back to the hotel, we passed by the St. Patrick's Cathedral. Now, we did not visit St. Patrick's as we had already been to Christ Church, but we understand it is just as impressive inside, and we would recommend visiting at least one of the two cathedrals while in Dublin. The next morning, we were on the road to Belfast, the capital of Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, therefore the currency utilized is the British pound, not the euro. Michael explains that to understand Belfast and a visit today, you must understand recent history and what is known as the Northern Ireland Troubles. Belfast was a major epicenter of the Troubles, a 30-year period of conflict from the late 1960s to 1998, rooted in ethno-nationalist tensions between Catholics, Irish nationalists, and Protestant Unionists, leading to violence, bombings, and sectarian divisions. Our included Black Cab tour took us to the areas of the Falls Road Catholic neighborhoods and the Shankill Road Protestant neighborhoods. The Falls Road meanders 2 miles through a large Catholic part of West Belfast. With its proximity to the nearby Loyalist Shankill Road, violence and tensions were never far away from the Falls Road during the Troubles. Still today, road gates between the neighborhoods are locked at night to deter potential conflict. In August of 1969, some of the most extreme violence took place at this location with the burning of homes. Due to the violence of August 1969, the British Army built a peace wall along Copper Way to separate the Shankill and Falls roads, thus keeping the two communities apart. 50 years later, the wall is still in place, and our Black Cab tour stopped to reflect on that fact. Encouraged was the writing of thoughts on the wall. Oops, you good?
Yeah. How's that?
Times are certainly better now than they were during the Troubles, but reconciliation still has a ways to go, and hopefully cooperation will continue to advance with new generations. After our tour, we check into the Europa Hotel for the next 2 nights. Built in 1971, it became known as the most bombed hotel in the world, after having suffered 36 bomb attacks during the Troubles. President Bill Clinton and the First Lady stayed in the hotel in November 1995, and then again several times in the years following, as the U.S. administration assisted with the 1998 Good Friday Peace Accords that ended most of the violence from the Troubles. After check-in, Jennifer and I caught a cab to Titanic Belfast. Titanic Belfast is a visitor attraction which opened in 2012, a monument to Belfast's maritime heritage on the site of the former Harland and Wolff shipyard in the city's Titanic quarter, where the RMS Titanic was built. It tells the story of the Titanic, which hit an iceberg and sank during her maiden voyage in 1912, and her sister ships, the RMS Olympic and HMHS Britannic. The 8-story building contains more than 130,000 square feet of floor space and starts with the scenes from Belfast at the time of Titanic's construction in 1909 to 11. The visit continues on a 6-seater car, which takes the visitor on a ride through a recreation of a shipyard. The launch gallery portrays scenes from when Titanic was launched into Belfast Lough, watched by 100,000 people. It overlooks the slipway from which Titanic was launched. The 4th gallery presents a large-scale model of the Titanic to illustrate how the ship appeared to its passengers and crew, depicting all 3 classes of cabins. The ship's disastrous maiden voyage is depicted in the 5th gallery, and in the 6th gallery the sinking, with a list of passengers' lives lost and saved. Titanic Belfast was the most visited tourist attraction in Northern Ireland in 2024, and we would recommend a visit if you have any interest in the ship's tragic story. The next morning, we are on a bus for an included tour to the Giant's Causeway, located on the northernmost coast of the island. Now, there are 2 viewpoints on how Giant's Causeway was developed. There is a scientific one that around 50 to 60 million years ago, this area was subject to intense volcanic activity, when highly fluid molten lava intruded through the chalk beds to form an extensive volcanic plateau. As the lava cooled, contraction occurred and fractured into the pillar-like structure seen today. The other viewpoint is a legend that an Irish giant named Finn McCool was challenged to a fight by a Scottish giant, Ben Donner. McCool accepted the challenge and built a causeway across the North Channel so the 2 could meet. To make a long story short, the Scottish giant, fleeing from the Irish side, destroyed the causeway behind him so that McCool would not be able to chase him down. I leave it to you on what to believe. It was about a 90-minute bus ride from our Belfast hotel to the causeway, stopping along the route to view the Donegal Castle. Upon arrival at the Causeway Visitor Center, we were given audio headsets and a couple of hours of free time to explore on our own. Jennifer and I decided to do one of the hikes, and it was scenic, to say the least. Arriving back at the visitor center, there are exhibits, a gift store, and a cafe available. Returning to Belfast early afternoon, Jennifer and I walk over to the City Hall, which has self-guided exhibits on the history of the area. Located on Donegal Square, the building opened its doors in 1906. The exhibition area covers 16 rooms with themes from past to present. Since we were approaching St. Patrick's Day, the party atmosphere was already in full swing. There were renowned traditional pubs with live music located just across from our hotel, but if you were looking for the real lively scene, then that would be the Cathedral Quarter, about a 15-minute walk from the hotel. There on Hill Street, you will find bars like the Thirsty Goat and the Dirty Onion. A much younger crowd which looked to be having a great time. Just down the street is Duke of York, certainly an Instagram moment. These party bikes seem to be popular, with some having a lot more partying and not a whole lot of pedaling. Looking for a good burger to go along with that drinking? Bunsen's is a small chain of Irish burger joints, and they do a burger right. The next morning, we say goodbye to Belfast, as we are on to the town of Londonderry, as it is known to the Unionists, or Derry, as it is known to the Nationalists. Now, this is a homecoming for Jennifer. As a child, she spent 4 years here as her father was stationed at a U.S. Navy base in the town. Like Belfast, Derry was a flashpoint during the Troubles, to include the tragic event of Bloody Sunday, and the sentiments are still on display throughout the town. Our first stop is the Town Hall, or Guildhall, and an impressive Guildhall it is. It was modeled on London's Big Ben. Fashioned in a neo-Gothic style, the Guildhall was originally built in 1887 by the Honourable the Irish Society. The square in front of the Guildhall regularly plays host to important events and was the site of U.S. President Bill Clinton's address when he visited the city in November of 1995. Up the stairs, we see the exhibit dedicated to John Hume, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate for his work seeking an accommodation between Irish nationalism and Ulster Unionism, resulting in the Good Friday Agreement. Interestingly, his wife Pat was one of Jennifer's primary school teachers. At the Guildhall, we meet our local tour guide, Ronan, as he's going to take us on a tour of the walls of Derry. Derry is one of the oldest continuously inhabited places in Ireland. Throughout the 16th century, Ulster was viewed by the English as being underpopulated and underdeveloped. Ulster had been the most Gaelic province of Ireland, as it was one of the least anglicized and most independent of English control. Therefore, in the 17th century, English kings populated Ulster with primarily lowland Scottish Protestants, which became known as the Plantation. The aim was to settle Ulster with a population supported of the crown, and Derry was renamed Londonderry. The town was rebuilt with high walls to defend it against Irish insurgents who opposed the plantation. Thus, the troubles of the 20th century can be traced back hundreds of years. However, there is moderate change occurring in the town, even in some of the murals, as in recognition of the Undertones, a rock band formed in Derry. Today, the walls form a continuous promenade around the city center, complete with cannon, avenues of mature trees, and views across Derry, something the town plans to capitalize on with future tourism. The TV series Derry Girls is a comedy show set during the 1990s, a troubling times for Derry, but the show was well written, injecting humor into tough issues. The show's writer, Lisa McGee's setting of Our Lady Immaculate College, a fictitious girls' Catholic secondary school, was based on the real life Thornhill College, where McGee herself studied. Thornhill is the same girls' school Jennifer attended during her last year in Derry, so obviously she is a big fan of the show. After saying thanks to Ronan, it was on to Donegal and back into the Republic of Ireland. The Irish name Donegal means Fort of the Foreigners. A town of about 3,000 people, it is located on the Eske River in Donegal Bay. After arrival, Jennifer and I had lunch at Dock 84. Good food at a good price. In the very heart of Donegal town, towering above the River Eske, stands Donegal Castle, and we have an included guided tour. The O'Donnells were the dominant family for centuries here. Red Hugh O'Donnell himself built the castle as his primary fortress in the 15th century. However, in 1607, after the 9 Years' War, the leaders of the O'Donnell clan left Ireland in the flight of the Earls. In 1611, during the plantation of Ulster, the castle and its lands were granted to an English captain, Basil Brooke. The Tower House was severely damaged by the departing O'Donnells to prevent the castle from being used against the Gaelic clans, but it was quickly restored by its new owners. Brooke also added windows, a gable, and a large manor house wing to the keep. The building complex fell into ruin in the 20th century, but was brought back to life in a former glory in the 1990s. After the castle tour, we checked into the Mill Park Hotel, a very large hotel, a 15-minute walk into town, and our place of stay for the next 2 nights. Dinner was included this evening and consisted of choices off a 3-course menu. Jennifer and I would agree that the desserts were as good as they looked. So that brings us about halfway into our 15-day Ireland tour, in time to wrap up this video so I can get it published. On our next video, we will explore some isolated ruins, stroll the streets of Galway, visit a sheep farm with working dogs, hike the cliffs of Moher, take a walk with a hawk in Dingle, and sing along with traditional Irish music in Kilkenny.